Hello everybody. Can I please have your warmest applause for Mr. Ken Loach.
Oh wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you very much. That's a huge welcome, and I shall pass it on to all the friends who made the film, and so on their behalf, thanks very much. May I say no at the beginning? Thank you very much for allowing me to speak English, and I always feel embarrassed because I'm in your country, and the English are very bad at learning languages because we had an empire. And the serious point is language is power, and therefore it feels really shameful that I should speak my language to you in your land. So I'm aware of that.
But also the Dutch language is quite difficult. I don't think there's anybody here in this audience who expects you to speak Dutch right now. So we'll just stick to English. Can I just ask you to keep up the microphone a bit higher? Yeah? So can everybody hear us also in the back? Yes? Great. Ken, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for this film on behalf of the audience as well. I would like to turn to the audience as soon as possible, because I can imagine that there are lots of questions in the room. But just one question, because I can also imagine that some of the questions will be linked to this context. Are you aware of the elections we had last week, and do you know the outcome of it?
Yes, I'm very aware of the election, and I think we all watched with some concern. See that it is seems to be part of a wave of similar results across Europe, and we, if I can say it, I think we share a lot of concern with people here about what's happening.
Yeah, and of course, some of the themes during the election are also the themes that you and Paul Lafferty touch upon in this movie. Let's just see if there are already some questions from the audience. If you have a question, raise your hand. I see one in the back. Just a second, you will get a microphone.
No, I'm very happy if people just have a point of view they want to express. It doesn't have to be a question.
Exactly. But keep it quite short, you know, because we want to give a lot of people the chance to ask you a question or tell you something. Okay, in the back.
It was the most impressive film I ever saw in my life. It took 77 years. I have two little questions. What is, in your opinion, the best film you ever made? Secondly, what was the best film you have seen from other film directors?
Wow.
Well, I mean, if you make films, then every time you see one you've directed, you only see the faults. So I couldn't pick one. I've been very lucky. I've worked with wonderful writers, and if films belong to anyone, they belong to the writers. And in this case, it's been Paul Lafferty, who's we've worked together for 30 years, and he's a great friend and a great comrade and a brilliant writer. And so what we've done together. Films that I've enjoyed lots, really. The films that have given me great pleasure, the greatest pleasure, may surprise you.
Not Marvel, I guess.
Okay. they're the films from the Czech New Wave of the 1960s, of Jiří Menzel and Miloš Forman, and they have a humanity and a warmth and a sense of humour that is very, very perceptive and very wry and very understanding, and they gave me and us a central idea of filmmaking, which is that the camera as an observer, not doing stunning tricks, you know, going all over the location, but just as a sympathetic observer in the corner of the room, and photographing people with empathy, like a good friend, with understanding, and trying to know who people are, and share their struggles, and share their sorrows, and share their anger. That's been a guide to us, really, over the years. But the other great films from the Italian neo-realists, of course, after the war, that I think I saw when they first came out, God help me. And the great one, of course, is Bicycle Thieves. And a wonderful film called The Battle of Algiers by Gillo Pontecorvo, which again introduced us to just a sense of reality in street warfare, and just had an authenticity and a presence that was terrific. So those are the kind of films, really, that I've enjoyed hugely.
Okay. Did you wrote them down? Yeah? Okay. A question. Yes, over there.
First of all, it's an honor to meet you. You're an icon of cinema, in my opinion, so very pleased to meet you here. I was wondering, your movies are much like about the communities they play in, and what is your opinion? Is there hope for the communities you portray, or is there a future for them?
Yes, I think there's definitely a future, but it depends. It depends on our strength and on our organisation. And on a principled leadership that understands the battles we face and has a program to effect change. What is interesting is that the closer we get to catastrophe, seems to me, it's only, you know, one opinion in a big room, but it seems to me that the closer we get to serious danger, the more desperate the people who stand against the common people, the more desperate they get. The more they resort to racism, the more they resort to war, the more they resort to harsh exploitation, because they know their system is crumbling and causing catastrophe. And so in a way, it seems to many of us, I think, that the closer we get to the precipice, the more dangerous they become. And that's our problem. And so we have to organise as fast as we can to resist. And that's the big challenge. But you look at these communities, and I don't know if it's the same for you, but for us, these are a classic example in the film, because it's an old industry, mining. The old industry has died. Business couldn't make profit there, so it just moves away. So the people are left to rot. You know, as we say, if there's a need and no profit, the need goes unanswered. And the government, we've had governments of right and centre-left, or right, the right version of the left. They've done nothing. They've done nothing, because they too are free market politicians. They claim to be left, but they act on behalf of the right. So nothing has been put in its place. But the old traditions of solidarity linger on. The old traditions that we are stronger together. The old memory of a socialist plan remains. You know, the collective is strong. The collective will work together. The collective will look after each other. That's very strong. And it's strong in real life, I mean, not just in the film. So I think that's what we have to build on. And what we hope is the source of hope in the film, and what we certainly found in the communities, is that sense of solidarity. And that reaching out to people who are, in this case, the Syrians, saying, we stand together. And that's the rock on which we can make progress, is solidarity. And the danger is, as the far right seems to gain momentum, they say the opposite. Your enemy is the person who's even weaker than you are. They divide us, and that's the problem, I think, is that conscious dividing of people who we should stand alongside, and from whom we gain strength.
Yeah, and also like TJ says, yeah. It's also like TJ says in the film, that, you know, we're so distracted, you know, looking at each other and forget to look up.
Yeah, yes,
And we
absolutely.
just keep looking down. And I saw, yes, over there.
I feel like you partially answered this question, but I'm still going to ask it, because I'm a bit ashamed to admit, but I'm less than half your age, but I am losing hope a little bit. And this film is about keeping hope. How do we keep hope?
Well, history is dynamic. You know, it never rests. It never stays in one place. And I'll tell you one reason for hope. Their system works on exploitation. You know, if you look at the market, they have to find new ways of exploiting working class people. When times were good, we won in our country, I'm sure it's the same for you, we won the 8-hour day. Nobody could be forced to work more than 8 hours a day. Or the 40-hour week. 5 working days, 8 hours a day. You couldn't be forced to work more than that. And for that, you got a wage that would sustain a family. That was what we won in the 50s, 60s. In the 1970s, there was more, out of the wealth that was created over the year, a higher proportion went to working class families in our country than at any other time before or since, in the 1970s. And it was because the unions were strong and we won those concessions. That we won those, that just common decency of a way of living. There's time, you know, there's time to make bread and have roses too. You know, the old slogan, bread and roses. You have a living, but you have the good things in life as well. What everyone is entitled to. And there was a health service which we owned together. We owned the steel, I could go on. And they had to find new ways of exploiting. And we know every time one of the big corporations finds a new way of exploitation, the others have to follow suit. Because one cuts their labour costs, the others have to follow suit. Otherwise, all the investment goes to the one making the most profit, and the others lose strength and are reduced. So competition produces greater exploitation. So they have to keep coming on the attack. And because they have to keep coming on the attack, we have every time we have a way to fight back. Because they have to take more, you know? And so that's a reason for hope, because they have to keep giving us chances to fight back. They have to keep taking more. And so that's one reason. And for that, we just need good unions, principled leaders who will mobilize the militancy that people have. Because by and large, people don't like having things taken away. Quite right too. So join a union and make it fight. And then you're with people who, you know, you're shoulder to shoulder. You're stronger immediately.
What about movies? I mean, do you think that movies can still serve as a tool for, well, improvement maybe, or also an instrument for hope?
Well, it's a tricky one, that, because I mean, well, you all know, I know as well as I do, that films are, we would like them to be communications, but essentially they are commodities. And particularly the industrial, you know, the commercial cinema makes commodities, big investment, has to show a profit. So that determines the content, it determines what kind of films are made. So and the ideology of those films is very right-wing. You know, it's one man with a gun will ride into the village and shoot the bad guys. And you hear Trump echoing that now. You know, the bad guys, where are the bad guys? Get rid of the bad guys. And that's from movies. That's from the American cinema. So in general, the commercial cinema is peddling, I mean, right-wing films. So the American films that show the CIA as defenders of peace and freedom and democracy. And, you know, we know what a fib that is. So it's tricky. I mean, cinema is a medium, yes. It's a wonderful medium. Can just reflect the world back to us. It can tell us stories from the past. It can illuminate. It can shed light. It can connect in all kinds of different ways as a medium. But the way the medium is used has narrowed it so much. For the majority, I'm sure not in these cinemas, because I hear they're great cinemas. But for most cinemas, certainly in our country, most of the time, the films that are shown have a serious right-wing element. And at the very least, it's about work. There's an enjoyment of wealth. You know, a lot of film stars, and you never know how they've made their money, or it's enjoyment of violence. And it'll claim to be an anti-war film, but how often do you get close-ups of the gun being drawn, you know, the bullet going in, the blood spurting out? I mean, it's a celebration of that, while pretending to be against it. So I think it's the cinema as we experience it is quite a right-wing institution, but the possibilities of the medium of film and cinema are endless, and it's a wonderful, wonderful medium to be able to work in. It's a real privilege, really.
Yes, over there.
Well, you've been speaking about other films, but I wanted to thank you for all the beautiful films that you have made and continue making. They are amazing. They manage also to, I guess, find a public, because you do find quite a large audience. So how do you reflect on that? What is your secret? Because you still manage yourself to gain some kind of success. Well,
thanks for that. That's again, it's for the team, so I'll thanks a lot. I think it's we were very lucky, or I was very lucky, really early on. And you can establish a niche, you know, a little corner within the business, which just when we've made a film, I mean, it has to have a commercial, be commercially viable, obviously, and the pattern that we found that is okay is that it's a European film, so the money comes from across Europe. The main co-producer is French, and the money is raised by pre-sales, and we're quite a cheap gig. You know, we don't raise too much. We don't cost too much.
I want to know about the films. How you make
the films. Well, it gives us the freedom. You see, what I was going to go on to say is that by being inexpensive, by having managed gradually over the years to build up an audience, like, you know, you very kindly come tonight, Enough of an audience that people will buy in advance knowing there is that audience there. That generates a certain income which is reliable. For that income we can make the film. And it's obviously, as you would expect, trade union rates, no shortcuts on the pay, but you know, we don't have caravans, we don't have private cars, we all travel in a minibus, which is good for everybody. And it's good fun, and we shoot quickly, you know, 6 weeks max, tight crew, so it'll work. So there's a viable way we can do it. And the great thing is that there's nobody saying you cannot make this film. There's no one saying this is a subject we will not tackle. No one says, and this is key, no one says you've got to have such and such a well-known actor or actress, and that's key, because the second biggest decision you take after what is the story and why make the film, and if you can avoid making the film, don't make it. You know, it has to be something you feel we have to tell this story because it shines a light on something really important, and we can tell it within human relationships, within real experience and people that we know, and there's a story, there's a situation and a contradiction and a conflict and a resolution and all those things. The next biggest decision is who will bring this story to life. And for that, you need total freedom, because the moment somebody says, well, you can make the film if you have such and such a well-known actor, you're dead in the water, because that possibility of creating that real person is gone. Because the camera can see everything about you. It can see the pores in your skin. You know, it can see what diet you have. It can see how your body is shaped by the work you do. It can see how your hands have developed if you're a manual worker. It can see how you, or hear how you use language, and the humor you have in how you use language, and everything about you. It can read it, and so the people in the film should be, if it was a documentary, you wouldn't question that they were who they were. And that's a high bar to set, because to find people like that, who you will also care about, you will also get to know, who you will want to know, who you will enjoy meeting, who you will cry with, be angry with, laugh with, you know, all those things. And if you find them, you know, you're very lucky. But that process is the second most important process, and then enabling them to be as good as they can be.
And as vulnerable. Sorry? And vulnerable also.
Yes, and vulnerable, absolutely. Yes, you're dead right there, because
a lot of them are non-professional or semi-professional actors.
Yes, yes. And that's, sorry, I'm coughing well.
Would you like a glass of water? I can pour you some water, yeah?
I mean, the vulnerability is, I mean, it sounds a funny thing, but it is critical. If you're working with someone who's erected a wall around them, a defensive wall, you can't reach them, they can't touch you, they don't reveal themselves. So to find people who haven't acted before or done very little, who will reveal themselves, means you have to work in a certain way. It means there has to be, first of all, you have to be good pals. The moment there's a kind of slight conflict or anything like that, people close up. You know, people retreat into their professional expertise instead of just, you know, being friends, being open, and Sorry.
Here you
Oh,
are.
thanks for that.
Well, it's the season.
Sorry, it's not gin and tonic, I promise. And so yes, so and it also determines how you use the technology, so that it's, you know, there's no lights in the room and just 3 or 4 of us in the room, no monitors, nobody standing around watching, tapping on their phones, so that it's and I think the actors have to feel they can't make a mistake. You know, whatever they do is fine, and the director makes more mistakes than anybody, which is true, and so it doesn't matter.
Like what kind of mistakes?
Oh, forgetting things, or saying we got the shot when we've forgotten to do a shot, and then everyone has to come back, and they all take the piss, and I have to.
Oh, they won't mind.
And so, and in a way, it's. I mean, you know, we always say, you know, if you get it wrong, it's just camera through it. It's just celluloid through the camera. It doesn't matter. You can get it wrong. I don't mind. It's okay. And just have a go. And in a way, then they let go. And I tell you what, you get gifts. I mean, in this one thing that was extraordinary, and you may not have noticed it, but the woman who played the mother, Amna, and all the families, they are the same families who live nearby to that location. And they'd all lost family members. The men had been tortured in a most appalling, I mean, horrific way. The eldest son, it was not their son, but played the eldest son, had got shrapnel in his forehead, where he saw the explosion that killed his cousin in front of his eyes. I mean, they've lived extraordinary lives and seen terrible things and are scarred forever. And they've all shed so many tears. When we began, I thought they will never shed a tear. This is a film, you know. What does it mean? It means nothing. But on the last day, when her husband in the film had died, and she was receiving the villagers, the people who lived there, and just wanting to share her grief and strengthen her, she actually wept. And I thought that was such a gift that she could do that. You know, within what was a fictional situation, was an extraordinary gift, really. And so, if it works, you get extraordinary little moments like that. Yeah. So anyway, but then sometimes you cock it up completely and you get it wrong. So.
I think we have a few minutes left. Let's see if we can get in some quick questions over here.
I don't know if it's going to be. Firstly, thank you. You have, aside from your film, said so many beautiful things tonight that I've half lost my question. You seem to speak for not for, but with the working class in the UK very much in mind. And your films seem to come from both a love and a frustration, a political, societal frustration. Mm-hmm. And now, as a filmmaker, I find myself struggling so much that there is so much frustration and so much anger about, society. How, because your films are so incredibly focused, how do you focus and zone in on this is what this film is going to be about?
Well, I mean, it's a good point you raise, and it's the ongoing conversation I've had with Paul, and the other writers I've worked with, but Paul for 30 years. We're in touch every day, and gossip and football and politics and family and all the stuff that pals talk about. But one subject will emerge, or one idea will emerge, and then we'll start to talk about it and try and see what's the root of it, what's the core, and then think whether there is a film in it or not. And then out of that, Paul will write a few characters, and we'll discuss whether they can say what we want to say about the situation, but without anybody making a speech about it. So that the story, in a way, it says everything you want to say about it without saying it, because it's within the characters, and the characters have got to live and breathe. You know, they can't be a spokesman; they've got to be an individual. You know, we've been so aware of that over the years that, and it's so important, because the moment you get a cut-out figure who speaks what the author wants you to say, you've lost. So, but equally, the relationship and the struggle within it has got to illuminate, get to the very root of what it is you want to say, or how you see the world. And I think then once, if you can do that, and then you've got to be ruthless about the pruning on the way. You know, the pruning of the idea when it's still being written is critical, so that you end up with, it's like a tree really. You know, you look at the tree and it's full of leaves and you can't see the shape of it. But when the leaves have fallen, you can see all the stray branches, so you cut those out and you end up just with the basic skeleton of the shape of the tree. And in a way, that's what a good script should be, I think. It is that essence of it, just that. And in a way, the fact that we've got to work so inexpensively is a discipline, because it means you don't put something in, oh, I'd make a lovely sequence, let's put it in. And it would, but it's not the core of what you're doing, so you don't do it. And then if it works, and who's to say, if it works, then you've got something absolutely precise, which is the aim. We never get there, but that's always the aim.
Ken, I would like to squeeze in one final question.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, guys, but we're running out of time. Over here. Oh, Mike.
Yes. I would like to know what inspired you to start making these type of movies.
Ah, wow. Well, I was very lucky. The biggest strokes of luck I had were in the 60s, after not being a very good law student and being entranced by the theatre and failing as an actor and not a very good theatre director. I got a job at the BBC. Within a year, I was in a group of directors and story editors who had the extraordinary brief and job to make contemporary fiction straight after the news on a Wednesday night at 9:15 for an hour and a quarter, hour and 20 minutes on BBC One prime time. And I was mixed up with a bunch of ne'er-do-wells and rascals. I mean, we were all mid-20s to late 20s. God knows how we got the job. But God knows how we got it. And there was no micromanagement in those days. There was a head of drama who was very supportive. He said, just rattle some cages, he said. Have a go. And nobody saw what we were doing until the day before it went out, which was extraordinary now. And the BBC now, they, like all TV stations, they know it's a dangerous medium. But then, 1964 began, 63, 64. And so we started work. And so we were able to interpret the world, and it was a very political time. It was the time of the new left, of neither Washington nor Moscow, you know, neither capitalism nor Stalinism. It was the time in our country when there was a social democrat government came in after 13 years of a conservative government. And we soon realized that the social democrat left was another version of the right-wing capitalist program, except they raised a few more taxes, but they supported the same system. And the other main thing that stuck with us was that the one thing you need to know is the essential conflict at the heart of society between those who sell their labour and those who profit from it. And there is a fundamental conflict, irreconcilable, and it will destroy us. And that was if we learned one thing in the 60s, it was that. And that's been the rock, I think, on which those of us who survived and those of us who've come along since have stood on. And it's driven everything, alongside being able to explore this fantastic medium and a real delight in making images and creating characters and telling stories and looking at the light and framing and working out where a camera should stand and how you photograph people so that you warm to them and understand them, and all the things about the medium, you know, which is, because it is, of all media, it is, to me, it is the most absorbing, because it has everything, you know. It has fine art, it has drama, it has conflict, it has wonderful language, it can have everything.
So when will your next movie?
Oh, well.
Yeah, I told them something about your retirement, but you said that before, so there's hope.
But look, here's a question for you. Where can I find the elixir of youth?
I think that's a good question to end this Q&A with. Can I have another very warm applause for Mr. Ken Loach?
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks very much.